Hi, today I'm going to talk about Spring Boot with some Thymeleaf, specifically Thymeleaf layouts, and we'll be integrating it with Bootstrap 5. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, I'm going to use Spring Initializer to create a new project. I have IntelliJ IDE installed, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to create a project called SB11. It's going to be a Java project. I'm going to use Maven. I'll set the domain as com.thomasjconsulting. So reverse domain name, SB11. I'll use JDK 17, Java 17. Go next. And I'm going to use Spring Boot 3.0.12. I'm going to use Lombok. I'm going to use Spring Web. And I'm also going to install Thymeleaf. So Lombok, Spring Web, and Thymeleaf. Great. Let's create the project. Okay. Here's a project that I created. First thing I always do is try to run the project. So it's resolving some dependencies right here. After it gets done resolving these dependencies, I should be able to run and start this project. I'm going to open up the main Java project, and let's see if we can run this. We'll enable the Lombok annotations. Great. And it's up and running on port 8080. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my resources, application properties, and I'm going to set server.port equals 8181. I'm then going to restart this just to verify it's running on port 8181. Okay, so this is where we set the server port and various other items in the application.properties. I'm going to go ahead and set it back to 8080. I'll go ahead and close this now. So we're going to need a template in here. And the first template we're going to need is a index.html. So I'm just going to create a new file. I'm going to call this index.html. And in here, I'm just going to put an h1 and say, hello, Spring Boot. So to make this work, we actually have to create a controller. So I'm going to go in my Java. I'm going to create a new package called controller. And in this controller package, I'm going to create a new Java file, and I'm going to call it home web controller. Okay. And I'm going to give this a class controller. I'm also going to add in SL4J so I can help you with my logging. And then in here, I'm going to set up a get mapping. And this will be a couple different get mappings. I'm going to add in a slash. But I also wanted to open up for index.html. So now I will add a public string. I'm going to call this show home. I'm going to return index. So what this will do is return a string index. And this is a pointer to the template that I want to return. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's open up a browser. http://:8080. And we see hello Spring Boot. Great. So our application is now up and running. So now that we have this, we can kind of see that we have our Spring Initializer working. We have our first component of Thymeleaf working. And we can go through and start talking about other components we want. And let's start by looking at Bootstrap. So to add Bootstrap into our index file, there's some starter templates, and I'm going to go ahead and copy one of those. Let's go back into our index.html file and copy this starter template. And so we have the required meta tags. And in here, we have hello world for the title. I'm going to move it up here. We load in the Bootstrap CSS. I'm going to say h1 hello world. And then optionally, there's two ways to load some Bootstrap JavaScript. And for now, I'm going to select the second method. And we're going to load a library called Popper.js as well as Bootstrap.js. And this is done towards the end of the body. Okay, so let's see how this works. We will simply restart this. And if we go back to our web page now, we can see that our previous version, the font has serifs in it. So if we refresh this, we'll see that this is sans serif, no serifs. So that's one of the things that Bootstrap gave us, is a little bit cleaner CSS. Okay, so let's continue moving on here and see what else we can do. So we're going to add in some more components from Bootstrap, and a few things that I like is the navigation. So let's add a navigation to our page real quick. That's really simple and easy to do with Bootstrap. I'm going to go into the Navbar section and find a Navbar that looks interesting. I like this Navbar here. I'm going to copy that. So let's go onto our web page. And top of the body, let's put this Navbar. I'm going to remove the disable because I don't want that. And then for the Navbar, we'll have our home. I'm going to change it to just slash features. Going to be slash features. And the pricing is going to be slash pricing. Those pages don't exist, but we'll create them in a minute. Okay, let's restart this and let's see how this looks. All right, so now we have a nice Navbar here. Now notice everything is up tight in the edge here, and Bootstrap has the capability to support responsiveness, so it looks good on mobile and everything. And that is using the concept of a container. So I'm going to wrap all this in a div. That div is going to have a class of a container. So all the way down to our hello world. And now we have everything wrapped into a Bootstrap container. And let's look at that and see what that has done for us. Ah, okay. So now let's move things over a little bit and clean stuff up. So it's a little bit consistent here. We have some spacing on the side, so I like that. I'm going to go through and change that Navbar title there. I'm going to make that SB11. There we go. Okay. If we look at this again, simply refresh, we see SB11. I'm going to change a couple things. The title right here says hello world. We're going to change that to home. So we'll change this title here to home. All right. And we're going to say home page. And we'll have a paragraph in here. I'm just going to say, this is our home page. Okay. Pretty simple, nothing fancy. Typically, when you have various pages, you will have a footer. So let's go ahead and let's set a footer in here as well. And in our footer, we're just going to have some basic information in here. We're going to have an ID for footer. And let's put an H1 in here as well. And we have some styling in here to make our font white and make it 12. So what I'm hoping to have is that footer be black. Let's try this and see how this works. Well, we don't see our footer, but we can kind of see this right here. Well, the font is white. It's not black, so it doesn't show up. So we need to add some additional styling. So what I'm going to do is add into our static folder, I'm going to create another directory called CSS. And for our CSS, I'm going to add a new file. I'm going to call that styles.css. And in the styles.css, I'm going to add some styling for my footer. So for our footer, I'm going to align center, position absolute, width 100%, bottom 0, padding 10. So what this is going to do is move our footer to the bottom. But we have not included our styles in here. What we can do is through the features of Thymeleaf, we can use Thymeleaf to actually load that style in there. And we'll go through and we'll do that before the head section. And with Thymeleaf, we can say our style sheet, and we can give it at curly brackets /css/styles.css curly brackets. So this is a special syntax, and notice this th is part of Thymeleaf. So we don't have Thymeleaf defined in here, so this isn't going to do anything for us. So one of the things that we want to do in here as well is make sure we have the XML namespace configured. So I'm going to add in XML namespace for Thymeleaf. That gives us the th. So now we have the th operator here. So this sets up the styles. And in the style for the footer, one thing that I want to add in here is a background color. And let's make it black, since we had white text. So we'll save this. We'll go back over here and refresh this. Now we can see our footer. So great. We have a menu at the top here. We have some page information and some main content. So let's go through and create our features. Okay. Well, there's no feature page there yet. I can quickly go through and create a new template. I'm going to call this features.html. And in here, I'm just going to say h1 features for now. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this or refresh this. Oh, there's nothing in there. We need to have a controller created for features. So let's go ahead and we'll just duplicate this. We don't need to have multiple names, so I'm just going to call this one here features. And this will be show features. And the template is going to be features. Okay, let's see how this looks now. Great, and it did exactly what we wanted. It showed simply features. And let's go ahead and add our pricing in here too. So just like our feature, we're just going to add one H1 in here and say pricing. And then we're going to go to our home controller. Going to add an endpoint for that. Pricing. Let's restart that. Go to our home page and go to pricing. Great, but we don't have any footers or menu in here. Wouldn't it be nice if we did that? Well, simple enough. We could just copy everything we have on the index page. But that would be a lot of duplication. So we're talking about using Thymeleaf. And Thymeleaf has something called Thymeleaf page layouts. So let's use Thymeleaf page layouts. To do that, we need to modify our POM file. And in our POM file, we're going to add the Thymeleaf layout dialect. So we're going to go down to our Thymeleaf. We're going to add our Thymeleaf layout dialect. I'm going to right click on the POM and go down to Maven and say reload project, and it updated the POM dependencies. Now that we have this, we can add in a couple things. To start with, for our index, we need to add in a new namespace . So this is a namespace for layouts. So now that we have that, we can use our layout. So let's talk about how this works. Let's go in, and the first thing I want to do is create a fragment. Let's create a fragment since we want to use this header, and maybe there'll be different types. Thymeleaf supports fragments, and let's go through and let's create another directory called fragments. And in our fragment, let's create a footer.html. Okay, and in this footer, we can now define our fragment. What a fragment has the namespace of the Thymeleaf doc types HTML. We have a head section, a body section, and then we have the footer. The footer here contains a div with an ID footer and all the information we need. So what we can do now is use this as a fragment. So let's go into our index, and in our index, I'm going to reference that fragment. So I'm going to say, instead of adding in the footer code, I'm going to say th replace fragments / footer::footer. And so this is the file fragments.footer.html, and then footer is the item inside there. So in this case, for our footer, it is this footer tag. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Let's remove this footer, and let's run this again. So if we go back to our home page, we'll see this is now showing. So this is now using a template. So templates are great and they get us started. We have our menu as well, and theoretically we could put that menu into a template. But for now, I'm not going to do that. So we could have the menu in a template and the footer in a template and copy that to every page. But again, that's a lot of duplicate of effort. What I'm going to do is take the next step, and in our fragments, I'm going to create another directory called layouts. And in our layouts, I'm going to create another file called base layout.html. And this base layout, I'm going to copy my index.html into base layout. And we're going to do a couple interesting things in here. The title is going to be different for each content. So there's a tag library that we get from the layout dialect that we added in there. And I'm just going to add it in here. So our title has a title pattern of content title plus a layout title. So there's a dash in here, and this dash actually, this dash and the layout title would get filled out from this right here if we had a layout title. In this case, I don't want that. I want the title to come from the content. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, so that's the first part of this. On our index, we need to make this a little bit more magical. And what we're going to add in here is we're going to tell it what layout to decorate this with. So there's a layout :decorate. Remember, layout came from our Thymeleaf layout that we added in there. And it's going to be fragments /layouts/base layout. Remember, we created base layout.html. So this is going to use it for the base layout. And we don't need all this other information in here. The only thing we need is the home in the title. And all this information in here we don't need. We can go ahead and remove this. We only need the content that we want to show. So what we're going to do in here is create a full page, but we're going to wrap this with a special layout fragment. And this is going to say that this content is the only thing we care about rendering in the index. Okay, so we're going to use this title and this content. Let's see how that works. Okay, in our template, we need to change the actual home page section here to use the content. So what this will use is, depending on the content, it will fill it in here. So let's try this. Let's refresh the home page. It looks the same. Let's go to our features page. Well, our features page doesn't have any new content. So let's go through and let's see if we can use the same concept for our features page. So we need the fragment information. Let's go into features. We'll add that. Then we need to close the section for the fragment content. And let's call this title Features. Okay, so what does this do for us? Let's go back and look at features now. In our features, we say features. For pricing, we're going to do the exact same thing. And let's save that. We'll refresh. In pricing, we see pricing. Great. So our next step is to go into the controllers. Let's go into home controllers. And I'm going to add some content for some features. And then in the features, I'm going to add some content in there to display the features. And I'm just going to use the standard syntax feature : features. And I'm going to use a th:\text to show the features. Okay, let's see how this looks. So here's our features, and we can see our list: big, round, purple. That looks good. So on pricing, we can see that it's using the template, and we can go through and also add some components in there. On our main controller, let's add some more interesting stuff for the pricing. What I'm going to add is something called pricing item. So I'm going to add a model package, and this might be something we get from the database. I'm going to use a couple things here. I'm going to use a Lombok at data. I'm going to use the no_arg constructor. I'm going to use the all_arg constructor to help me build this. And then once I have that in there, I'm going to put in 3 elements. They're all private: product number, product name, and price. And now in our home controller, where we use this, we'll add model here. I'll create 3 different items and put those into an array of prices. Now for features, we just iterated through and we displayed the value. Prices are a little bit different because that's actually a data structure. And so what we want to do is a couple things here. I'm going to add in a table, and what we're going to do is in our TR, we're going to have a th each, and this is an iterator, and this means repeat this row over and over. So we're going to say th item from prices, which is an array. So price item, product number, product name, price. So let's run this now. So now we see the data in here and structured in a table. And everything we have in here is responsive. Okay, so that's pretty nice. So let's go through and let's add one other little thing to our home page. In our web controller for the home page, I'm going to go ahead and add some content in here of a hello attribute. We're going to add the model in there, and this is how we can pass information into the template. So now in our index, I'm going to add in a welcome message, and I'll reference the welcome attribute here. Okay, and it's that simple. Let's go through and see how that works. Okay, hello there, how are you? And this is our message that we sent in. Okay, one other thing I want to go over is we can do other things which occasionally you need. And I'm going to pass in to our welcome page some prices. And not that I need the prices in there. What I want to do is show you how to use some of the other components. Specifically, and this is a select. So let's go in here and I'll add some content. And I'm going to say, we're going to go through our prices and we're going to create a select pull down with all the different product names and product numbers. So now we have all the information in here. And if we actually look at this code, if I just view the page, we'll see that we have the value, which is a number, and then the description. So it's exactly what we'd expect. A lot of benefits to this layout template on Thymeleaf. If you notice, the pages are so much smaller. We don't have to duplicate all the code. I can have a base layout, and I can have an authenticator layout, etc., which adds a lot of power to my system. Integrating that with a database and Spring Security allows you to have a lot more capability. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please take a look at my other YouTube. Like and subscribe. I also have Udemy classes where I teach a lot of Spring Boot. I'll try to do some more advanced Thymeleaf classes and show you some of the capabilities of using forms and other components for create, update, delete functionality, standard CRUD type work. And it's very powerful. One of the things I liked about Thymeleaf is over a simple environment like React is if you have to take care of SEO, you can add your meta tags in here for your description, your title, and everything. And they can actually come from a database. So you can do a mini CMS very quickly using any database. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day.